Hello and welcome to Firstpost Spotlight, where we bring you stories that matter to you from across the world, shining a light on the day's biggest issues and controversies. I'm Kerry Johnston, live from the Firstpost studios. But first, let's take a look at the headlines. South Korea scrambles fighter jets after Chinese and Russian aircraft enter and exit its air defense identification zone, with Seoul confirming there's no violation of national airspace. German Chancellor Friedrich Merz rejects elements of the newly released US national security strategy, saying parts of Washington's assessment of Europe are unacceptable. The International Monetary Fund releases $1.2 billion in loans for cash-strapped Pakistan as its fragile economy struggles to pull itself up after a two-year financial crisis. A blaze in Indonesia's central Jakarta office building kills at least 22 people after a battery explosion ignited a fire that spread through multiple floors. And global airlines forecast record passenger traffic next year as the industry anticipates stronger profits driven by resilient freight performance despite ongoing supply constraints in the sector. Hello and welcome. Well, today we begin with the latest update from Pakistan, a country which continues its warmongering tactics against its neighbour India. Adding to the ongoing tension between the two nations, Pakistan's Chief of Defence Forces, Asim Munir, has warned India of a swifter and more severe response. Well, the remarks were made during the inaugural ceremony of Pakistan's new Defence Forces headquarters in the garrison city of Rawalpindi. And Munir chose anti-India remarks to mark the event.
India should not be a victim of any self-deception or assumption. Next time, Pakistan's response will be even swifter and more severe. A clear message has been given to the Taliban regime that it has no choice but to choose between Fitna al-Khawarij and Pakistan.
Well, Munir was referring to India's Operation Sindoor, which inflicted heavy losses on the Pakistani security establishment in May. Indian forces, in response to the deadly Pahalgam attack in Kashmir, destroyed terror bases in Pakistan. India's offensive forced Pakistan to plead for the cessation of fighting, but instead of admitting their strategic setback, the Pakistani government chose to mislead its citizens. The Shehbaz Sharif-led government not only claimed victory, but also promoted Munir as Field Marshal. It's the country's highest military rank and has been awarded only once before. And that's not all. Pakistan appointed Munir as the Chief of the Defence Forces. The creation of the post followed President Zardari's approval of the Pakistan Army, Air Force and Navy Amendment Bills 2025 last month. Well, this gives Munir operational control over the Army, Navy and Air Force. Pakistan has always been dominated by its army, but this bill has made the power game a legal one. Well, coming back to Munir and his anti-India rhetoric, this is not the first time he has done this. As such, he's a repeat offender. In April, Munir called Kashmir the jugular vein of Pakistan. The remarks were seen as a trigger for the deadly Pahalgam attack in April, which claimed 26 innocent lives. In August, Munir resorted to nuclear saber-rattling during his US visit, threatening to take down half the world and destroying Indian dams on the Indus waters. And it's not just India that Pakistan struggles to make peace with. It has a bitter relationship with its other neighbour, Afghanistan, as well. The two nations have been clashing along their border. Munir said Pakistan has given a clear message to the Pakistani Taliban, or the TTP. Instead of acknowledging Pakistan's historical role in nurturing regional militancy, Islamabad sought to shift blame entirely onto Afghanistan, claiming that it harbours the TTP. Well, India has backed Afghanistan's territorial integrity and sovereignty. It has condemned reports of Afghan civilian casualties during border clashes.
Reports of border clashes in which several Afghan civilians have been killed. We condemn such attacks on innocent Afghan people. India strongly supports the territorial integrity, sovereignty and independence of Afghanistan.
Though New Delhi responded to an issue threatening regional peace, it did not interfere with Pakistan's internal political turmoil, something Islamabad does on a regular basis. India did not even cater to Pakistan's bogus warmongering, as its military action has already given a befitting response.
देखिए, पाकिस्तान में जो भी घटनाएं होती है उस पर हमारी पैनी नजर रहती है, लेकिन जहां तक लोकतंत्र की बात कह रहे हैं आप कि पाकिस्तान में लोकतंत्र लचीला हो रहा है, उसमें कमजोरी आ रहा है, उसकी ताकतों को कमजोर किया जा रहा है, लोकतंत्र और पाकिस्तान दोनों साथ साथ में नहीं जाते.
Well, Pakistan is reeling under internal political turmoil since Imran Khan's arrest in 2023. His supporters face brutal crackdowns for protesting his arrest. Pakistan's economic hardships are also mounting, forcing it to seek loans from the International Monetary Fund. Sections of Pakistan's population are unable to afford even basic meals. And ignoring dozens of such challenges, the Pakistan Defence Forces chief decided to dedicate his maiden speech to an anti-India tirade. The messaging focused on confrontation rather than peace. This not only reflects Pakistan's misplaced priorities, but also paints a grim picture of its policies. It suggests that in Pakistan, propaganda and feeding lies to citizens takes precedence over everything else. Well, moving on to our next story. In the US, the cost of hiring top-level foreign talent is making headlines again. A tech co-founder has publicly declared that even a $100,000 price tag wouldn't stop him from bringing in those with the best global skill sets. Well, the remark came from Shahriar Tajbakhsh, who was reacting to a social media post suggesting a massive hike in H1B-Visa fees. He would set up a recurring payment, he said, if it meant hiring the best talent for his company. Tajbakhsh is the co-founder and chief technology officer of Metaview AI, a company headquartered in London but with major operations in the US. An engineer of Iranian origin, he has repeatedly said that cutting corners on talent is the worst mistake a tech leader can make. And it's not the first time he's openly backed H1B migrants. Over the past few months, his company advertised jobs in India with messages like, yes, we still sponsor H1Bs and $100,000 won't stop us. He believes a company only surges ahead if it hires talented employees, not because it saves money on paperwork like visa fees. In earlier interviews, he said that when you add up the value created by world-class teams, $100,000 doesn't matter. In September, he also urged H1B workers to apply to Metaview if their current employer doesn't value them enough to pay the fee. But this is far from the first time a major tech leader has spoken up for H1B talent. Alphabet CEO Sindoor has highlighted how immigrants have played a phenomenal role in shaping America's tech landscape. And more recently, Tesla chief Elon Musk praised Indian professionals on a podcast, saying the United States has gained immensely from their contributions. Together, these remarks continue to fuel the wider debate on skilled immigration and America's deep reliance on global expertise. But why this specific figure? Well, in September, US President Donald Trump signed a proclamation imposing a steep $100,000 fee on H1B visa applications, arguing it would limit the program to only the most highly skilled foreign workers and protect American jobs. Well, the fee has undeniably reshaped the flow of global talent into the US, with India accounting for the majority of H1B recipients. The fee hit Indian professionals the hardest. The sharp increase in cost has prompted many companies to slow or reconsider hiring. Well, with America debating rising visa costs, tech founders defending global hiring, and political leaders pushing for tougher rules, the future of the H1B program remains uncertain. But for companies like Metaview and voices like Tajbakhsh, the message is clear: great talent is worth the price. Well, our next story is about Saudi Arabia boosting connectivity with its neighbour, Qatar. The two nations have signed a landmark agreement to build a high-speed electric rail route that will directly link the capitals, Riyadh and Doha. It's the first project of its kind between the two nations and symbolises how far ties have advanced in recent years. The new rail line will connect King Salman International Airport in Riyadh with Hamad International Airport in Doha. Key Saudi cities, including Al Hufuf and Dammam, will also be part of the network. And according to officials, trains on this route will operate at speeds above 300 kilometers per hour. Well, that cuts travel time between the two capitals to about 2 hours. The project is expected to be completed within 6 years and serve more than 10 million passengers annually. But beyond travel convenience, the railway project is designed to generate more than 30,000 direct and indirect jobs and contribute more than $30 billion to the combined GDP of both countries. The agreement was signed in Riyadh by Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and Qatar's Emir Al Thani. Officials from both sides described the project as a strategic step and one that deepens bilateral cooperation, builds regional integration and supports long-term sustainable growth. This rail link also marks the continued rebuilding of relations after the 2017 diplomatic rift. Well, that was when Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain and Egypt cut ties with Qatar, accusing it of supporting terrorism. However, at the 2021 Gulf Cooperation Council Summit, Saudi Arabia and its allies formally re-established ties, signing an agreement that marked the return of joint Gulf action to its normal course, they said, effectively closing the chapter on a 3-year-long rift with Doha. Since then, both nations have steadily expanded political, economic and security coordination, and the mega railway will play a significant role in boosting trade, which has already surged by more than 600% since 2021. It will encourage tourism, make cross-border business more accessible, and improve mobility for millions of residents and travellers across the region. Environmental sustainability is a major priority for the project, with electric rail system designed to reduce carbon emissions and support a modern, eco-friendly transport policy across the Gulf. Well, this rail project signals a new era of ties between Saudi Arabia and Qatar, one which they say will lead to a fast, clean and well-connected future, a symbol perhaps of a more integrated Gulf. And our last story is from Australia. The country is set to implement the world's first social media ban for children under the age of 16. The ban will come into effect tomorrow. Some of the biggest social media platforms will be required to block Australians aged under 16 or face a fine of up to $33 million. Well, these include Facebook, Instagram, Kik, Reddit, Snapchat, Threads, TikTok, X and YouTube. These platforms were on the initial ban list. More platforms could join the list as soon as new products appear and young users switch to alternatives. Well, according to government data, 86% of Australians aged 8 to 15 used social media before the ban takes effect on the eve. Well, Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese made a last pitch to convince hundreds of thousands of Australian teens that the new laws were for their own protection.
From December 10, if you're under 16, you're no longer allowed to have a social media account. You'll know better than anyone what it's like growing up with algorithms, endless speeds, and the pressure that can come with that. That's why we've taken this step to support you. Above all, make the most of the school holidays coming up, rather than spending it scrolling on your phone. Start a new sport, learn a new instrument, or read that book that has been sitting there on your shelf for some time. And importantly, spend quality time with your friends and your family, face to face.
Albanese also talked about other countries going down the same path.
It's important here to recognise that Australia isn't going alone. On January 1, change kicks in Malaysia. We have New Zealand. The European Union in the past fortnight has adopted a resolution moving towards this change going forward as well. So this is a global issue that the world is dealing with.
Yeah. Well, major tech companies and free speech advocates have criticised the law. Billionaire Elon Musk described the ban as a backdoor way to control access to the internet by all Australians. Other platforms have complained that the ban violates people's rights to free speech. Platforms say they don't make much money showing adverts to children under the age of 16, but the ban might interrupt a pipeline for future users. Meanwhile, parents and child advocates have praised the ban. And as for Australian teens themselves, content creators are worried about their future.
I do find customers coming in and they're like, oh, I've seen you on TikTok. Some people even get photos with me here and there, selfies. But I can feel the impact of social media with my business, yes.
And others are concerned about finding a community they can relate to.
It's going to be worse for like queer people and like people with like niche interests, I guess, because like that's the only way they can find their community. And some people also use it to like vent their feelings and like talk to people to like get help or something.
So the days of compulsive scrolling through negative and upsetting content are over for Australian teens. To study its impact, Australian authorities have hired Stanford University and 11 academics to analyse data on thousands of children covered by the ban for at least the next 2 years. And it's not just Australians who will be closely watching the impact of the ban. Lawmakers across the world are seeing it as a live experiment. Denmark is also set to follow in Australia's footsteps. The Nordic country is looking to ban social media access for children under the age of 15. The ban is expected to take effect by mid-2026. So, can the government's intervention limit the harm social media is causing to children? Well, if this ban works, it could act as a blueprint. And could it be the first domino in a global rethink on how young people use the internet? The coming days and months may reveal the answers to these questions. That's all we have time for on the show today, but we'll see you again tomorrow. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye for now.
From breaking news to the day's biggest controversies, shedding light on the world's top headlines, detailed analysis on the stories that matter the most to you. Catch it all on Spotlight at 6 p.m. India time and 12:30 GMT, only on Firstpost.
Hello.